Swapping my screen time for reading time. I don't know, something about this, I'm not vibing with this anymore. Hi guys, welcome to another reading vlog. This week is going to be different from normal because I am doing another challenge finally. It's been a while since I've done a challenge. It just feels like it needs to be done again. I feel like I've really kind of slowed down on the amount that I've been reading and I kind of want to pick that back up. So for this one, we're going to be swapping my screen time for reading time. The way that I'm going to do this is pretty much the normal of every day. I'm going to go based off of last week's on that day for the amount of time that I need to read. None of these days are really too crazy. The longest day I have is 4 hours and 2 minutes. So I tried recording this last week, but I messed up the clips really bad, so I just kind of scrapped that video. But I definitely learned that I don't read as much during the day as I thought I did. Because like there was one day where I had 4 hours and I struggled to even get those 4 hours. Like I didn't realize how little of time I actually sit down and read. If I have enough time to be on my phone for 4 hours, then I should have enough time to read. There's no excuse for that. So we're switching that this week. We're changing that. I'm going to read more instead of sitting there doom scrolling on my phone. So for Monday, my screen time was 2 hours and 10 minutes. So that's what we're going to do today. If there are any days that, like, say I finish early and I decide that I want to keep reading, I'll start a stopwatch and build up the time. And then if need be, I'm going to try to avoid this at all costs. But if for some reason one day I don't get to that, I can use those extra times to make up for it, you know? Yeah. And then obviously if I don't finish it one day, the time will get rolled over into the next day, so I'll have to add it to it. But anyway, we're starting off with Powerless by Elsie Silver. I downloaded this last night. It is part of my February TBR. Today is the 24th, and I have, for the first time ever, actually stuck to my TBR all month. Round of applause for myself because I've never done that. The only 2 books that are left, I have 3 books left on my TBR. I'm going to try and finish 2 of them by the end of this month. I have 4 days to do so. I want to get through Powerless by Elsie Silver, and then I want to read The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. The last book that's on my TBR is Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. And the only reason I'm not pushing myself to get into that is because I'm in the middle of so many series right now that I really don't want to add another one. If I don't get to that, it's not a big deal. If I do finish both Powerless and The Last Letter, I will pick that one up. I will not pick anything else up. This is going to be the month that I actually only read books that were on my TBR. So anyway, with that being said, let's get into this reading challenge. Okay, so it's Wednesday. I wanted to do like a little bit of an update because I did reach the 50% mark of Powerless, but for today's time was 2.5 hours, which I did already start reading this morning, and I'm down to 1 hour and 42 minutes. Update time for Powerless. I'm 50% of the way through. I have mixed feelings on this one. On the one hand, I am really enjoying this one a lot. I like Jasper. My thing is I don't know how I feel about Sloane. I don't really know how I feel about her. I don't mind her. I do really like Jasper, and I like the whole friends to lovers aspect. It's never been my favorite, but I do like it nonetheless. I feel very bad for Jasper. His whole backstory, it had me tearing up reading his backstory, but Harvey never disappoints in these books. Ever. He is so funny. Like in this one, they're talking, and they're like texting back and forth, and Jasper goes, "Don't be weird." And his response is, "I'm not weird. You're the one with a crush on your cousin." And Jasper's response is, "She's not my cousin." And he goes, "Ha, but you didn't deny the crush." He's just so funny. Yeah, I think Harvey might be one of my favorite characters. He's just such a funny old guy. And he's always so lighthearted. and I feel so bad for him with like everything that's happened to him in his life. He doesn't deserve that, okay? Overall, I'm liking this book, but again, it's kind of the feeling that I had with, what's the first one? Flawless, with Rhett and Summer. It's kind of that same feeling with Flawless. Like, I really like it and I'm having a fun time reading it. I'm just not overly loving it. You know, hopefully things change in like the last 50%, but the tension is there. The banter is 100% there. I'm really enjoying that. Sloane's family sucks. Horrible. Her fiance at the beginning, I'm still hoping that he gets his ass beat at some point in this book. The things that he said at the beginning, no thanks. That whole cheering scene where he's like, cheers to keeping women in the kitchen. Haha. That's the moment where I was like, please tell me at some point he gets his ass whooped. Honestly, at first I was like, man, I really hope Jasper whoops his ass. But honestly, I'm kind of hoping Sloane comes and like sucker punches him in the face at some point. That seems like the redemption that needs to happen. That's like my biggest update with this. Okay, it's now Thursday and we have to do 3 hours and 47 minutes. But I do need to add another 12 minutes to that I didn't finish last night. I did get 71% of the way through Powerless. I don't know, something about this I'm not vibing with this anymore. I'm gonna just read more of it. We'll see how it ends up going, but as of right now, I'm just not the biggest fan of this book. But anyway, 3 hours and 59 minutes. I apologize for the terrible lighting. It is a extremely gloomy day, but I wanted to do my update. My final rating is a 3.5 star. Overall, I really enjoyed Jasper as a character and I liked Sloane. I liked them together. They had really good banter and they had good chemistry. My biggest problems with this book that made me rate it the lowest out of the series so far is one, once we got to the first spicy scene, it felt like that whole aspect took over the whole book. I no longer felt like there was any plot or like anything we were building towards. It really just felt like every chapter had to have some form of a spicy scene in it, and I did not like that. I don't mind having a couple spicy scenes here and there in a book, but I don't like when it becomes the whole focal point. So that one definitely took it away from me. The mention, this is going to be spoiler free, so everything that I'm about to say is going to be vague and kind of out of context, so sorry about that, but there is a tattoo that gets brought up once it's noticed. It gets brought up way too often to me, and it's not necessarily that the tattoo itself is brought up, it's that the same sentence about this tattoo is said way too often. Like, I get it. I get who the tattoo is for. We don't need to say it every time it is noticed. So that was my problem with that one. And then also with just how the mention of Sloane looking at Jasper, and if you read this book, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those who haven't, that kind of sounds weird and random. But again, that same sentence is just repeated way too often. It's just the repetitiveness. There were like 3 things that just, once they were noticed, they were just repeated so often that it was kind of getting on my nerves. Those 2 big aspects are what made me knock this down so dramatically. Harvey, star of the show. He's so funny. I need a book just of him. I need one because he's hilarious. I would love to read one. Oh, also Theo. His scene in that book made me want to get to this one so bad, which this is the one that I think I mentioned this before, like earlier in the video. I think this is the one that people say is one of their favorites out of the whole series. I think this is the one that has like the highest ratings, and if it goes the way that one scene went, I fully understand why. I think the last one, Hopeless, I thought this one was Beau's book before. Obviously earlier I said this was Theo's book, but initially in my head, I don't know why I thought that Reckless was Beau's book, but now that I know it's Theo's, so I'm assuming Hopeless is Beau's. But I forgot about Theo until he was brought up in here. Like when they first said his name, I was like, the name, like when I picked this up and talked about this, I was like, I know the name, but I don't know the character. Like, I don't remember who he is. And then they mention in here that he was Rhett's like protege. I remember him from the first book. But his scene in Powerless made me so excited to pick this one up. I almost just immediately picked this one up after I finished Powerless earlier, but I was like, I think I'm gonna take like a 1 or 2 book break. So with that being said, we have an hour and 53 minutes left for today, which I had my timer for the 3 hours and 59 minutes, and then my daughter picked up my phone and deleted my clock. So I had to restart it because I was roughly around 2.5 hours. So I had to start a new timer with 2.5 hours, but we have an hour and 53 minutes left. I kind of want to take a break from my Kindle and read a physical book, so these are the ones that we're picking from. This is part of this month's TBR. I almost started The Throne of Broken Gods by Amber Nicole, which is the second book in the Gods and Monsters series, but like I just said, I kind of just want to hold a physical book. And again, I don't know, I kind of want to go into this, but at the same time, I kind of want to take a break and read something else. I don't really want to start a series right now, so that one's kind of out. I'm torn between Long Live Evil and The Shadow in the Glass. This one's a Cinderella retelling, and it's kind of shorter. And then this one is a little bit longer. It's like 430 pages long. But do I want a gothic book or something that kind of... I think I'm going to go with this one. A Tale for Anyone Who's Ever Fallen for the Villain. I've already read this in my wrap up, so I'm just going to give like the brief thing. In this, you're following Ray, and she views death as like a chance to start over, and she ends up in one of her favorite fantasy books, and the main character is stated to be alluring and charming as only a fictional man could be, but she realizes that she's actually not the heroine of the story. She's the villain in her favorite fictional character's story. It sounds interesting and fun, and I'm definitely drawn towards this one the most, I think. So let's finish this pretty much 2 hours that we have left today and see how this one goes. So I wanted to do a update. I think it's been a couple days since I updated. But anyway, yesterday we got through all the time, but I accidentally deleted the clip. So, you know, I read some of this yesterday, but a majority of my time went towards The Crash by Frida McFadden. I'm listening to the audiobook of that. I don't know how I feel about that. It's my first Frida McFadden book, and I don't know if it's just the audiobook and I don't care for the narrator on there, but there's just something about the book that I don't find myself being very like hooked or invested into it. So basically in this one, you're following Tegan, who is like I think she's 23 years old, and she is currently pregnant with no spouse, really no family where she's at. And so she decides that she's going to go stay with her brother for a little bit, but she has to do a little bit of traveling to get there. And she leaves thinking she's going to beat this storm, but she ends up being put in the middle of this snowstorm, ends up crashing her car and breaking her ankle. And then a guy ends up stopping and helping her. So he takes her to his house with his wife, and they're letting her stay in their cabin. But at first she thinks she's just kind of waiting out this storm because the phone lines are down. All the roads are completely covered in snow. The plow crew has not came out yet. And then she starts to kind of realize that something's really off, and so she's trying to find a way to save herself and her baby. It's dual POV, so you get Tegan with her point of view, but you're also getting the wife of the couple who saves her. And I don't know, there's something that I'm just not fully clicking with. The narrator's voice is kind of whiny for our main character. Like, that's how the character is portrayed, and I just don't like it. It kind of, I don't know, something about it just kind of puts me on edge every time I'm trying to listen to it. I'm still interested in the outcome and to find out like the huge twist that I'm sure is gonna end up happening. So far, we've gotten a little bit of a plot twist that I wasn't fully expecting, but it also wasn't super shocking. Like, there were a little bit of breadcrumbs that kind of are leading you towards one direction, but you're getting subtle hints that maybe it's going in a different route, and so it wasn't a huge shock to me. I'm hoping that there's some other huge shock that ends up happening here, but just so far, nothing's really caught my attention in here. It's just okay. But that was one that I was excited to get to this year because it is a new release. So far, a little bit disappointed. I think I am, let's see how far in this I am. I'm 51% of the way through. So I'm halfway through that book. This is my first Frida McFadden book. So if you love Frida McFadden, let me know what your favorite book by her is down below, because I hear really mixed things about her, but I still want to give her books a try. But I want to try the ones that people like the most. So let me know. And then update on this one. I'm on chapter 12, which is page 134. This book is different. I have kind of been in a roller coaster of emotions for this book. I don't know how I feel. I still don't know how I feel being like 25% of the way through this book. I'm having a hard time getting the characters right in my head. Like, I feel like maybe it's just me not being able to, I don't know. I feel like I'm not getting super hooked into this story, which is making it hard for me to focus, and in turn I'm having a hard time keeping characters straight in my head. There's a lot of characters in here. You're following your main character, Ray, but there are so many side characters, and I cannot keep them straight to save my life. Like earlier, I still don't know who they were. No clue. I thought I knew who they were, and then I lost it again. But they're like twin sisters. So one of the girls' name is Hortensia, and her sister's name is Horatia. Do you know how hard of a time I've had following these two? Because like, I'll start kind of getting in my zone on a page and really reading faster than I normally do, and then all of a sudden I confuse myself because those two names are so similar that I'm not reading them right when I'm reading quickly. Like, I'll be reading it and I'll see Hortensia, and then that name is in my head, so then when I'm reading quickly, that's all that I'm seeing. And so then I'm sitting here like, hold up, she's having a conversation with herself, and yeah, that's put me through a loop. There's just so many characters in here, and it's definitely an interesting plot, but basically all that's happened is she has cancer. Her outcome is not good, and then she ends up getting the opportunity to go into her favorite story, which the beginning was kind of confusing because she was talking about her sister, Alice. This book is Alice's favorite book, and so she starts reading this to her sister while she's sick, and secretly our main character actually loves this series. So she ends up getting the opportunity to go into here, and the deal is that she has to like find this object. It's like a flower, I think. The flower of life and death or something like that. And you don't really, I don't know why she has to find this flower. I don't know what the outcome is supposed to be with finding that flower, but apparently no one's ever done it. So she gets into the story, and at first I was kind of bored. It was interesting, like I wanted to kind of see where it was going, but nothing was really catching my attention. And then when I got to like page 80, I was kind of starting to get the groove of characters, and then a plot twist hits. And I was like, wait a second, what? And then it really caught my attention, but now by 1:30, I'm kind of having a hard time again because they've introduced a bunch of new characters again. But what's confusing is like, you're getting the story, but it keeps changing. So like as she's going through this, obviously, you have a story written, but if you're going in there as a character and you're doing different things than how the book was wrote, it's going to change the course of the book. So that's kind of happening, and it's throwing me through a loop. Like, I'm having a mixed time. In moments, I'm really enjoying it, and then other moments, I'm like, what's even going on here? What are we talking about? Where did this come from? So yeah, I don't know how I feel about it yet. Hopefully by the 50% mark, I start enjoying it more. I feel like it's not really meant to be taken seriously. There's like a really heavy emotional side to this book, and I feel like that's what's throwing me off. Like, you have this really sad aspect to the book, But then when she's in the story, it's way off the wall. Like, the things that she says are just so weird that it makes you laugh. So I don't know how I'm supposed to feel reading this. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a comedy or depressing, because like she'll be saying things as like a lighthearted joke, or like the characters will say something so off the wall and weird, but then in the next thing she's talking about how she's used to the pain and how chemo is and the way she felt during chemo, and I'm like, hold up, you're giving me whiplash with my feelings over here, because I was just laughing and now I feel extremely sad. I'm gonna get back to reading. I have about an hour left of my time today, and I'm hoping tomorrow will be my last day for this portion. I'm hoping to get to the 50% mark by tomorrow so that I can at least give the 50% mark update before ending this video. I'm gonna go back to reading. Okay, so I still have 2 hours and 38 minutes left to read today, but I wanted to do an update now because I have decided that I'm going to soft DNF Long Live Evil. It's not that I don't like the book, I just feel like I'm having such a hard time grasping everything, and I don't think it's the book's fault. I think it's me and just like my mentality. I'm trying to get more into reading my TBR versus just mood reading, but I'm having a hard time getting out of that. And I don't know why the last couple days I've been like hardcore wanting to mood read, and this just isn't what I want. It's on 148, which was chapter 13, and it's like, I don't know, maybe 20% of the way through the book, 25%. I don't know what that is, somewhere around there. But I was gonna wait until I got to the 50% mark, but I honestly just don't want to anymore. I'm feeling mildly crabby today, and I don't know why. So I just feel like it's not fair to the book for me to force myself through this. I took notes on like what's happened so far, so that if I do decide to pick it up in like a month or two, I can just look back on those instead of restarting. So for the last 2 hours and 40 minutes that we have to read today, with this being the last day, I don't think I'm going to start a new book. I think I'm just going to keep listening to the audiobook for The Crash by Frida McFadden. I am like 60% of the way through. I listened to it a little bit this morning. I think I listened to like 30 or 40 minutes worth this morning. So I'm just going to pick that back up. I'm just going to listen to that for the rest of this and see if I can get kind of further into it. I've been listening to it on 2x speed. It says I have 3 hours and 6 minutes left in the book. I'm 67% of the way through. So maybe I'll listen to this for the last 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I'll probably just try and end up finishing this today. Then I'll give an update at the end. Okay, I don't have the best lighting down here, but I'm too lazy to walk upstairs, plus it's quieter down here. I just got done listening to The Crash. I think I'm gonna give this like 3.5 stars. It is my first Frida McFadden book, and I don't know how I feel about it fully. I had a good time. There were some plot twists that I didn't really see happening, but overall, I was just kind of bored. It didn't feel super fast-paced. It kind of felt a little slow. I didn't find myself really caring all that much about what was going to happen. The plot twists were decent, but they weren't anything super crazy. There's 2 separate kind of storylines that you're mildly following. The second like subplot that you're following didn't really shock me all that much. I thought that's kind of where it was going to go. The main plot isn't exactly what I saw coming. In both plot twists that you get, there's like 2 separate parts to it. Not fully what I expected, but again, nothing really came out as like a huge shock to me. So 3.5 stars. It was fun. It was an enjoyable read, but nothing over the top crazy. I definitely do still want to check out some of her other books. I just don't know which ones to pick up. But with that being said, I do still have an hour and 2 minutes left on today's timer. But with me soft DNFing that other book and then now finishing The Crash, I don't think I'm going to pick another book up right now. I think for the rest of the night, I'm kind of just going to play some video games and take a break from books. And yeah, I don't know what I would want to pick up right now. So I think it's for the best that I don't. because then I think I'll just end up with another Long Live Evil thing where I get a chunk of the way in and I'm just not vibing with the book. I guess that's the end to this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date with all my future videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!